am the State Executive Director. I would like to express our deepest gratitude to the leadership in North Carolina for introducing and advancing House Bill 789. A special thanks to our bill sponsors, Mike Schietzelt and Tim Reeder, and the Judiciary Chair Committee, Senator Danny Britt. I would also like to thank Chuck Spahos from the North Carolina Conference of District Attorneys and Joe Stewart from the North Carolina Alliance for Safe Transportation for standing with us here today. And also to the many victims and families who have joined us, thank you. Your presence is a powerful reminder of why this bill matters. HB 789 incentivizes the voluntary use of the ignition interlock device by offering it as a mitigating factor for certain individuals charged with impaired driving. These devices prevent the vehicle from starting if alcohol is detected on the driver's breath, and they work, and they save lives. In fact, from 2006 to 2023, ignition interlock devices in North Carolina have stopped impaired drivers from starting their vehicles more than 331,000 times. That's 331,000 potential tragedies that never happened because the driver was prevented from driving impaired. But despite this progress, drunk driving crisis remains an urgent issue. In 2023 alone, 415 lives were lost on the North Carolina roadways due to impaired driving. At MAD, we have come to know many of those families. We've heard their heartbreak, we've seen their strength, and stood beside them in courtrooms and at candlelight vigils. Their pain reminds us every single day why this work is so critical. House Bill 789 gives people a second chance to do the right thing. It offers a path to accountability, an opportunity to demonstrate responsibility, and a real way to prevent future harm. More than anything, it's about saving lives. Ignition interlocks reduce repeat drunk driving offenses by up to 70% while installed. That's not just a statistic, that's a solution we cannot afford to ignore. We are grateful for the House for recognizing this potential and overwhelmingly enacting HB 789. Now we call on the Senate to do the same. We urge our senators to move this bill forward to help stop repeat offenses, prevent senseless tragedies, and protect families across North Carolina. Because with smart technology, sound policy, and the courage to act, we can make impaired driving a thing of the past. Thank you. Now I would like to welcome House sponsors Representative Schietzelt and Reeder to come up to the podium.
Thank you all so much for being here today. It is a great honor to sponsor this legislation and to have moved it through the House. We're looking forward to seeing more action on this. Just a couple quick words. My father was a Marine Corps infantry rifleman during Vietnam. Dad was big on accountability. And Dad would always talk to me about the importance of accountability. He would say, you know, if you screw up, own up. He impressed that lesson upon me throughout my entire childhood and into my adult years. I'm trying to do the same with my 10-year-old son, Arthur, who's with me here this morning. And it's an important lesson for all of us. I think that's what the main intent behind this bill is to give people an avenue to take accountability when they screw up, when they make mistakes. I have been honored throughout this process to work with Mothers Against Drunk Driving and to work with a coalition of safety organizations to encourage people to put one of these in their car when they mess up. This is the ignition interlock device. If you've installed one of these in your vehicle, this hooks up, and I'm going to allow other people to explain the technology a little bit better because my background is in music and law, not engineering. But ultimately the goal here is if you blow into this thing and you blow above a .02, your car's not going to start. And the technology has gotten good. We have prevented people from being able to game the system. So what this allows somebody to do is say, listen, I made a mistake. I'm going to install this in my car voluntarily. And if they install this voluntarily, they maintain it for I believe it's 6 months, you're going to get a lesser sentence, and you're going to be able to have your driver's license restored more quickly. We're going to recognize the fact that you took accountability for your mistake. I want to thank my co-sponsors on this. I mean, we have Representative Reeder. We also have Representative Alan Chesser, who is a sponsor with us on this, sort of a last-minute addition to the lineup, and we appreciate him being here. But I especially want to thank these brave women standing behind me. Some of these women have suffered from unimaginable horrors, and through their pain, they're here to share how they're here to share their stories, so that we can use their stories and use their pain to make our community safer, to make our community stronger. So I would really I appreciate Rosalind, Sean, and Stephanie for being here today. You're going to hear from them. Again, it's just an honor to be a part of this legislation. Tim, do you want to say anything really quickly? Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. And my name is Tim Reeder, and I represent District 9 in Pitt County, and I'm also a practicing emergency physician. And so I see on a daily basis the tragedies of drunk driving in the patients that I take care of and the lives that are destroyed or harmed from this. And the reason, and I was proud to sponsor this bill, to be asked to be on it, because anything that we can do to help mitigate people who are intoxicated from driving is a good step forward. As Representative Schietzelt mentioned, it doesn't take away the accountability, but it says and helps acknowledge from patients that I have a problem, and I can use this device to help me overcome the risks associated with drunk driving. And so I was happy to support this bill and moving it forward, because I know that at the end of the day, there will be lives saved. There will be people not injured because of the use of this device. So again, I want to thank Representative Schietzelt for including me on this bill, our advocates who have suffered at the hands of drunk drivers. So appreciate them being willing to tell their stories, because those are very powerful and very meaningful. So thank you very much for being here today to advance this policy.
I'd like to invite Senator Danny Britt, the House Judiciary Chair, to come up and speak. Oh, he's not here.
We have a substitute.
Gotcha.
We have a pinch hitter.
Okay.
Pinch hitter. Oh, I don't know about that.
There you go.
I don't know if that's setting the bar low for me or for Danny. I appreciate it. I want to thank you guys for coming out, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. A few years ago, my wife and I and some of our kids and even a child that we were hosting from Belarus were involved in an accident where we were struck by a drunk driver. So this is something that is personal, and I want to thank Michael for his leadership on this, because I mean it's an important issue, guys. This is, again, this bill, this little device here creates accountability, but it also points us to the focus, right? Our system is punitive against drunk drivers, we get that, but this focuses on changing behaviors. This is important in that way, that we're not just punishing people for a mistake that they made, but we're trying to help them improve their lives and change behaviors for the future. And I think that's incredibly important and something that is worthy of the focus of this body. And so thank you guys for your efforts on this. This reduces recidivism. It's proven. I think when I walked in, I heard that, reduces recidivism by 70%. That's phenomenal. If we could do that in other ways of criminal law, I think that would be a huge win. So thank you guys for the opportunity to be part of this. Thank you for the work that you're doing and allowing us to come alongside and partner with you in this work.
Now I'm going to invite Rosalind Reddick to come up and tell her story.
Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank the Lord, my Savior, Jesus Christ, for giving me the strength, the mercy, and the grace to stand before you today. My name is Rosalind Reddick, known as Ma, M.A., to Elijah. My husband, Almer, and I were blessed with one child, Elijah. Our heart, our joy, and our everything outside of God. Elijah was a beacon of light, love, and peace. Elijah was a calm to my storm, a joyful, silly Christian, and a giver of unforgettable bear hugs. I miss him deeply. His Kool-Aid packed smile could light up the room. Elijah was a hard worker, especially on our family farm in Williamson, North Carolina, where he now lays to rest. He was a student at his dream school, USC Chapel Hill, following Almer his dad's footsteps. But on Thursday, October the 5th, 2023, Elijah's life was taken by a drunk and drug driver. At the time, my husband and I and friends were out of the country. Our world has forever changed. Today, I want to share the 3 P's with you. The first P is purpose. I'm here because of Elijah, Forever 22. I stand not just for him, but for all who can no longer speak, for those who are in the grave, those recovering from crashes, and those who are too exhausted to find the words. In 2023, as shared before, 13,453 people died in alcohol-related crashes in the United States. 415 of those were in North Carolina, and Elijah was one of them. By the grace of God, we all made it here safe today. But I ask you, will you make it to your next destination safely? I'm not trying to instill fear, but to bring awareness to the situation. The next time you're walking, biking, driving, riding, think of a drunk and drug driver who shares the same road with you. Think of the people you love the most, your relationships, your children. Then ask yourself, do I want to trade places with Alma and Rosalind Reddick, or the victims that she's standing here with today? Please take a moment and think about your babies. Think about your nieces, your nephews, your godchildren, your students. So many children are growing up without their parents because someone decided not to call a Lyft, a friend, or an Uber and drove impaired instead. That's why we are asking for the support of the HB 400, Bentley's law. This law will require drunk and drug drivers who has caused a fatal car accident or crash to support children who are surviving with their families until the victim turns 18. And victims like me and the individuals and families who are standing here with me today, we need VOCA funding, Victims of Crime Act support. VOCA helps families deal with unimaginable loss, but funding's cut threatens these resources. We need the state funding to fill the gap that stops suffering from getting worse. The second P, drunk and drug drivers are 100% preventable. There are options: Lyft, Uber, a friend, a spouse, a neighbor. But clearly, it's not enough. As an educator, if a student isn't understanding the lesson, I don't give up. I find a new way to teach. I bring more tools, more strategies, because failure is not an option. We need to treat impaired driving prevention the same way. It is not enough to react. We must act before the tragedy. We must support stronger. We must support stronger accountability. We must reach first-time and repeat offenders before they become the tool that destroys somebody's life. Because it could be your spouse, your child, your student, your friend. It could be you. So let me ask, raise your hand if you want to keep hearing these tragic stories. Raise your hand if you want that knock on the door, that call that changes everything. That's why we also continue to support the HB 789, a bill to strengthen the ignition interlock laws. As stated before, it has saved many situations and people like me standing here. The third P, pass the bill. We must reflect, act, and demand change. Together as a community, as brothers and sisters, we can share our stories, lobby to reform, and demand stronger laws. We can protect lives. We must trust God just like Elijah did in the last moments of his life. A witness to the crash said that Elijah prayed and asked for prayer. He transitioned by wearing a shirt that said, "Trust God." If Elijah could trust God in the final moments of his life, we can stand and trust God to help pass these bills, to protect others, to protect you. Please turn to the person next to you and say, protect you. In closing, I leave you with the 3 Ps. We have purpose, we can provide prevention, we and those who can make a difference can pass the bill to save lives and your life. Let's honor Elijah's life. Let's honor the names and the loved ones typed beautifully on these posters around me. Let's remember the faces on the posters and pictures. Let's speak for those who can't. Let's act with love, with faith, and with urgency. Let us trust God and create a safer world today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. I would now like to introduce Stephanie Ronan, who is a survivor of an impaired driving crash.
Good morning. My name's Stephanie Ronan. On September 29th, 2018, my son got a knock at the door around 2 a.m. from a highway patrolman. He said that his mother was involved in an accident and she could either be found in Greenville or Wilson. He packed up his 13-year-old sister, unknowing what he would find, and he drove to Vidant, ECU Vidant. And when he was allowed to see me, he describes it as a horrible sight. I was hooked up to tubes, a ventilator, I had a neck brace on, external fixators. We later learned that I would have a long recovery. The impaired driver hit me head on in Wilson County. He was driving on a suspended license. I was told just 3 weeks before he crashed into me, he got pulled over for a DWI. Had this law been in effect, that could have prevented the crash from permanently disabling me. My injuries include an internal decapitation, which is a rare neck injury that normally has a 25% survival rate. So I have hardware in my neck, multiple fractures throughout my body. I have hardware in my ribs, my leg, and my femur. I had worked in the eye care industry as an optical technician, and when I woke up, my eye was crossed. So I now have a visual impairment that affects me from tracking letters, reading emails, driving at night. It's harder to judge distance, things like that. I never would imagine my life was like this. As a single parent, it was my job to take care of my 2 kids. When I was discharged from the hospital, in addition to a nurse that came every day to bathe and dress me, my 19-year-old son was now in charge of driving me to all my therapies, the pharmacy, going grocery shopping for the family, and my 13-year-old daughter had to help me at times as well after shoulder surgery and other therapies as well. It's taken me 6 years to get to where I am now, that I can walk unassisted. I still suffer from chronic pain due to the multiple fractures. I probably will undergo some more surgeries. All this could have been prevented if the technology was available. I believe that my crash wouldn't have happened had it been implemented during this first charge. Impaired driving is 100% preventable crime. Like Rosalind mentioned, I mean, with with Uber, Lyft, designated driver, there's no excuse. But with this technology, I believe it will help save lives. So, thank you for your time this morning, and please consider getting this bill pushed through and any funding that can help mothers against drunk driving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All of our families standing here today will be available if you do have any questions for them later on. Now I would like to introduce Joe Stewart with the North Carolina Alliance for Safe Transportation and Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina.
I'm Joe Stewart, the Vice President for Governmental Affairs, the Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina, Chair of the Board of the North Carolina Alliance for Safe Transportation. In the course of my career, I have done and been part of many initiatives involving various traffic safety initiatives and have met the families of people that have lost a loved one or been tragically impacted by something that's occurred senselessly on our state's roads and highways. And I'm always in such admiration for your tenacity and dedication. And the one common denominator I found through those years and those various initiatives is these families want every other family to avoid the pain that they've felt as a result of this. Their presence here today shows a commitment to try to take action in a positive way that will avoid some other family having that knock on their door, a highway patrolman or a police officer, letting them know someone they know has been hurt or worse. This legislation is good for three very specific reasons. From our perspective, anything that can reduce traffic fatalities, traffic crashes, even minor incidents is good public policy. It keeps the rate of insurance low for us to have lower crash rates. It's important that we have public policy that keep our roads safe for that reason. So this is good economic policy. It's also good criminal justice policy. It gives a criminal defendant an opportunity to prove to a judge that they're serious in their commitment to try to take this terrible thing they've done wrong and make their lives better by avoiding that same behavior going forward. The final thing that I'll mention is in the discussion of this issue on the Governor's Highway Safety Program Task Force, one of the criminal defense lawyers made mention that in fact many times this is an opportunity for someone that has a serious substance abuse problem to recognize they need to change that aspect of their lives. And so having this device installed in their vehicle pre-trial is an opportunity for them to recognize the change they need to make within themselves. We know this about traffic safety, that a significant portion of what makes the road safer is people conducting themselves better when they're behind the wheel of a car. Until every single person in the state of North Carolina is a member of the State Highway Patrol, no matter how stiff the penalties, there's no way to enforce the law so significantly that we could prevent this from happening. We need to change behavior. And the fact that these devices will now be available to be installed perhaps will help someone deal with a substance abuse problem they have. It will correct their behavior, and it will make the road safer by making it not possible for them to operate the car while intoxicated, at least while they're awaiting trial on that offense. Thank you so much to the leadership of MAD for bringing this forward. Thank you to the legislature for introducing this bill. We stand strongly in support of it and hope to see it cross the finish line and signed by the governor soon. Thank you.
And now we will have Chuck Spahos from the North Carolina Conference of District Attorneys.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. Again, I'm Chuck Spahos. I'm General Counsel of the Conference of DAs, and I represent the 42 elected district attorneys. And I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this. This has been in the works for some time. There's been a lot of people in the background that has met, discussed, and worked hard to get to where we're at today. We appreciate our partnership with MAD and the many things that we've done in the past and the things that we're doing today. We're here on behalf of these victims whose lives have been torn apart by this awful crime. You've heard a couple of words that I think are real important today. You've heard accountability, you've heard responsibility, and this bill uses the word mitigation. And that's what this is about. We know in criminal law there's different levels of culpability. And we as prosecutors find part of our task is to find appropriate remedies and appropriate sentences depending on the behavior. This is about an individual that takes on the responsibility, accepts accountability, and has earned mitigation. I think it's important to point out that when you get down in the weeds of this bill, there are certain safeguards in there. We're saying if you injured people while you were driving under the influence, you don't deserve this mitigation. We're saying if you blew more than a .15, you don't deserve this mitigation. And you have to do this within 45 days of the offense. Those are important safeguards in there that ensures that the people that deserve this mitigation upon taking responsibility are the ones that get it. And the prosecutors of this state are proud to stand here today we want to thank the sponsors and say let's get it done. Thank you.
I wanted to let everybody know that at 10:15 there will be an ignition interlock device demonstration outside the legislative building on West Jones Street. There will be a car there with it in, so you are welcome to go down and see how that device actually works. I know you all saw it here, but you'll actually get to see it in a car, which I think is always helpful to understand how it works. And I guess if there are any questions.
Yeah.
A question for Representative Schietzelt.
Yes, ma'am.
What So why isn't this moving in the Senate? What sort of pushback have you heard?
We haven't heard any pushback from the Senate. I think this is just kind of the normal process. But I think the purpose of today is just to let them know how much support there is out there for them. I mean, this is, I think the last couple of speakers here did a great job of laying out why this is such common sense legislation. It's not just about protecting victims, although as you can see, that's goal number one. I think it's also important, though, to recognize that it is good economic policy, that we are trying to drive down insurance premiums, that it is good criminal justice policy. We're giving people the opportunity to own up to their mistakes and to receive a lesser sentence, to receive a lesser punishment for those mistakes. So I think when you see all the different areas that this touches on, it feels so trite to say something as common sense policy. Everybody says their bill is common sense policy. This really is a bill that just makes sense in a lot of different ways and advances goals in a lot of different policy fronts. So we'll see what the Senate does with it. That's not my call to make, but we're hopeful to see it move soon.
But I guess to follow up on that, why not just make this mandatory for people in this position, right? I mean, why give them a lesser sentence for it?
Well, I mean, that's a possibility, but we want to give people the opportunity to make the right decision. You know, if you want to make it mandatory, then I don't see. I think it would introduce some interesting policy wrinkles into the sentencing and how we approach that. Do you have any thoughts on that, Chuck? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think it's important to understand that this is prior to conviction. So this is an individual that's accepting responsibility and taking this on upon themselves. The state's not in a position to require it prior to there being a conviction. There are several areas once there is a conviction, the device is required. But remember, we're talking about pretrial. We're talking about the accused, not the convicted, taking on this responsibility and then asking for the mitigation.
That's great.
Yes, ma'am.
How much do one of these devices cost?
Can you help me out with the cost here on this?
About $4 a day.
About $4 a day. There are.
How many days?
Well, I think, again, at least 6 months is what they're going to have this in. Now, if you look in the bill, there are mitigation efforts for people who this would be a financial burden on. You know, we don't want to make your access to criminal justice dependent upon your resources. So if somebody would qualify, if you have someone who, upon conviction, would be eligible for financial assistance to have this installed in your vehicle, that would be eligible to them pre-trial as well if they wanted to take advantage of this program.
This is probably for Mr. Spejas. What kind of timelines are we looking at as far as, you know, if the criminal justice system is slow to resolve these DWI cases, how much faster with this kind of bill could you get an interlock system into place for somebody who needs it?
Well, as I said earlier, it requires for this mitigation to apply, they have to do it within 45 days of the offense. So certainly if it's going to be a case that resolves in a plea, which as we all know most cases do, this actually would incentivize a defendant that wants to take responsibility to get that done in that 6-month period, and let's get into court, let's enjoy the mitigation that comes from that, and move on. So I do believe that this will help move cases forward.
Anything else? Anything else from? Well, we appreciate you all being here today, and we look forward to seeing this bill move soon. But in the meantime, this is an important conversation. We're honored to be having it. Thank you again to Mothers Against Drunk Driving for showing up and for sharing your stories. This is, again, these are sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, and we want to do everything we can to protect them and make sure they're home at the end of the day. Thank you all.